Hello, this is going to be the second part of Unit 4, so 4.2. The first thing we're going to do is use our calculator to find an equation of best fit. We have done that before for linear equations. Most of it is the same, just now we're working with quadratic equations. So the first thing, you want to make sure your scatter plot is on. So you hit the second button and then stat plot or y equals, and then you're just going to hit enter twice. Once you have that, you can close out of that, and then we need to make sure our stat diagnostic is on. So you're going to hit mode, and you're going to go down to where it says stat diagnostic. You can see it's blinking right now on off. We want to go over to the on button and then hit enter, and then we are good. And then you can just clear out of that screen. Once you have that, you're good to go. So the first thing we're going to do to find the equation of best fit is to first enter our data into our calculator. So you're going to hit the stat button, and it's all listed out here. We're going to go to edit, and then we are going to enter our data into list 1 and 2. So for example 6, the table shows the average fuel consumption in gallons of a passenger car between 1970 and 1996. Let X be the number of years since 1980. Oh, sorry, this is a typo. I meant to change it. It should be years since 1960. Sorry about that. Okay, so X is in the years from 1960. So from 1960 to 1970, that's 10 years. To 1975, that's 15 years. And then 20 to 1980, 25 to 1985, 30 to 1990, 35 to 1995, and then just 36 to get to 1996. So with these numbers, sometimes you are going to go up by 1. Sometimes you're going to skip count consistently, or like this one at the end, sometimes it's going to change. So first we were going up by 5, and then we were going up by 1. So make sure you're just paying attention to the years so you have the correct numbers to get the right data on your calculator. Okay, so now we're going to enter those. So the numbers that we just wrote down, those are going to go into our list 1. So we have 10, 15, 20, 25, 30, 35, and 36. And you want to make sure you're checking these numbers, because if you get one of them wrong, it's going to affect your equations, which will affect a lot of your answers. So make sure you are double checking them as you type them in. So our first one in list 2 is going to be 760, and then 695, 576, 559, 520, and then 530, and 531. Okay, once you have that, we're going to move on to step 2, which is look at the graph to determine if you should use linear regression or quadratic regression. So remember, linear is going to be data that's more in a straight line, and quadratic is going to have a curve, whether it's a curve at the top or the bottom, and it might only show you the beginning of the curve, not the whole thing. So if there's any curve at all, you want to use quadratic. So in order to see the graph on your calculator, you're going to hit the zoom button on the top and then number 9, because that's zoom stat, so it's going to fit the graph to your data. And you'll see at the bottom of our graph towards the right, it's kind of curving. So it's no longer going in a straight line, it's curving. So we are going to use quadratic. So before we move on, we're going to draw a sketch of the scatter plot. So at the bottom, we have our years, and then we have fuel consumption. And we're going to sketch our points really quick. Boop, boop. And there we go. And this is years / fuel consumption. And you want to make sure that you have labels. And then we're also going to do our mins and max, which you can find by hitting the window button on your calculator. So the X min was 7.4. The X max is 38.6. And then your Y minimum is 479.2. And again, I'm just getting these from the calculator where it says Y min and now Y max. It's flashing over there is 800.8. Okay, now we have that. Next, we're going to determine if the data is best fit by linear or quadratic. We've already discussed quadratic, and the reason is because this data is curving. So there's a curve to the data, so we want to use quadratic. Now we're going to write the regression equation and round to 4 decimal points. So that's where step 3 is going to come in. Use your calculator to find the equation and r or r squared values. We're going to use r for linear and r squared for quadratic, and it's easier to remember because quadratics have a squared in the equation, so we use the squared. Linear doesn't, so we use the regular r. So to do that, we hit the stat button. We go over to calc on the top, so now calc is highlighted, and number 5 is quadratic, so we can push the 5 button. And we're going to calculate this, and now it gives us our a, b, and c values. So we're going to round those to 4 decimal points in its equation. So we'll start with y equals 0.4977. Don't forget your x squared. And then our b value is negative. So I'm going to put minus 32.0579x. Don't forget your x as well. And then my c value is positive, so I'll put plus 1,039.7466. And that's our equation. Our next question, what is the coefficient of determination? That is talking about your r squared value. Round to 4 decimal points. So on our calculator, r squared says 0.9760. And what does this mean about the relationship between the year and fuel consumption? When it's asking a question like that, it's asking, is it a strong correlation for the relationship or is it a weak? If it is like a 0.8 or a 0.9, those are considered strong correlations. If it's less than a 0.8, so if it's 0.7 something, then it would be a weak correlation. So this one, because it's a 0.9 at the beginning, this one is considered a strong correlation. Then lastly, they want us to predict the amount of fuel consumption in the year 1987. So first we need to figure out what our x value would be in 1987. To do that, we subtract the year that we are counting from. So at the beginning, they said x is the number of years from 1960. So we're going to subtract 1960 from 1987 to get our x value. So we have 1987 minus 1960. That gives us 27. That 27 is what we're going to replace x with in our equation. If you want to rewrite it with the 27 in there, you can. Or you can just type it into your calculator. So we're going to type our equation 0.4977. And then in parentheses, we're going to do 27 and the squared outside. Minus 32.0579 times 27 plus 1,039.7466. And this one we're going to round to the nearest unit. So that means the nearest whole number. This would be 537 about. And this is fuel consumption, so this one would be gallons. Okay, so that is how you can use your calculator to write an equation of best fit for a quadratic regression equation.